What's up, guys? We're back with another Robot Spirits review, taking a look at a version anime line figure from the Universal Century. We are taking a look at the Gundam 2 or Gundam ZWEI figure that shows up in what, 0080 and then 0083 as well. So two of my favorite series, and definitely one of my more preferred Zeon units. So we've got this guy here in the standard kind of Ver anime Robot Spirits packaging. So figure is there in that tiny little window, and then the front is all about the artwork showcasing these guys locked in battle. You've got product shots on both sides and then a bunch of product shots on the back, all of which kind of shows how they move and then all the stuff these guys come with. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Robot Spirits Gundam ZWEI. A suit that appears in two of my favorite shows when it comes to Gundam. My favorite show of all time, 0080 and then 0083. And I'm kind of a sucker for Zeon stuff, so this one kind of catches my interest right out the gate. But when it comes to an action figure, there's a lot going on with this thing, specifically from an articulation standpoint. At first glance, you would think that it's much more limited than it is. It does have some things about it, some quirks that make it a little more difficult to pose than other figures, but they've tried their best to work around this business right here, specifically, to make it as easy to pose as possible. It's not perfect, but it does work a lot better than you might think. There's a lot of things on this figure that move that you would never expect them to move the way they do. So let's see what it can do, see how it moves around. We've got a head that is one of those that is kind of cantilevered to begin with, so you can pick it up and sort of jut it out. So it will look up really far. It'll look down really far also. This flap on the back here will move up and down to get in and out of the way. You do have some tilt side to side, and then of course you can rotate. It does look kind of awkward because of that, like it's really far forward, but it works and it kind of gets it up out of the way. It does have a mono eye, like, it's a Zeon suit, so it's got a mono eye, and it is capable of being moved. You pull this red piece off here, and then you can move the eye around. I find it kind of difficult to move with my finger, so, use something else like an action figure sword, but it works really well, and you can get it up and down and all around, really. We've got arms that have a butterfly joint, so they move in and out. They also drop down and go up, so they are jointed there. You can move the armor around also, so it does move a little bit with you, and then the arms themselves will go out. They will, of course, rotate. You've got your bicep swivel here, and then this is where things get really weird. So you've got your arm right here. It hinges this way. So if you look, if I swivel the arm again, that's actually a hinge. But if I swivel it this way, there is a different secondary hinge in this arm to get a full 90-degree bend where the arm is facing outward. So if you want, you can then swivel it around and bend it upwards, and you get a full range of movement there, which is frankly pretty ridiculous. So that's awesome. It's interesting, but it's awesome. I mean, it works really nicely. It's hidden very well too because of those armor plates. The torso is kind of limited, but that's not unexpected in this line. He goes backwards a little bit, goes forwards really nicely though. And then you've got good tilt side to side, and you've got a rotation here as well. It doesn't go all the way around, but he moves enough, I think, especially for this line and for a mobile suit. This isn't a surprising thing, really. The skirt flaps will move in and out, so you've got a couple points here that will move to help get the legs up and out. They do not go all the way out, but they go far enough, I think. And then they kick forward more than all the way, because there is a cantilever system down in here that allows the joint to drop down. So it goes in, it goes out, and then you can kick forward. It also will allow you to sort of lengthen the stride of the suit also. You can twist up there at the thigh. There is a thigh cut there. The knees are definitely going to be a limited area. They have good range, but the suit itself does not really allow for it to move all that far because of this business right here. So it does get in the way. This is one of those areas where it's definitely limited. It's not super limited, but it is what it is. The ankles though are where things you would expect to be the worst, and they truly are not. So kicks backward, really good. Kick forward really nicely as well. This armor piece here will move in and out, and then the foot itself will separate right here to allow for more movement, especially if you want to get into kind of like a walking pose. You've got the ability to drop this thing down though. So it moves in and out, and then you can rock that far. So tons and tons of movement, and there is full rotation down there also. So you can kind of see some of the mechanics on the inside up there. There is a lot going on to make this thing as functional as possible. It does look kind of interesting depending on how you have him posed, because you might be exposing some of that extra joint work. But when it comes to posing him around, it does help quite a bit because it helps you to clear all of this. The areas where it is truly limited the most are the knees, and then of course the torso, but in a very easy to work around kind of way. So it does have some limitations. It's not the most articulated Robot Spirits by any means, but it has some crazy stuff going on. This secondary joint in the arm I think is really cool, and then just what they did to make the ankles as functional as possible really does go a long way here. Now, on the flip side to the fact that the articulation can be hindered by the fact that this guy does have some kind of crazy designs in many ways, especially the feet and the ankle area. The design is one of the reasons why I like this suit, because it's just kind of a weird looking suit. Just the regular Dom, this Dom as well. I really like them. I think they look great, and I think it translates into a figure very nicely. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, I'm a big fan of this line. I really enjoy the anime line of Robot Spirits, and this guy is no exception. It is another instance where the design translates very nicely into figure form. I think it looks fantastic. Scaling, sizing is all really nice. I mean, it is, of course, a very bulbousy thing. He's got this monster butt flap going on back here, but there's like a million thrusters up in there, which I think is always awesome. You've got all the thrusters that are in the foot, so tons of effect part compatible spaces here. He doesn't come with that stuff, but if you've done enough with this line, you probably have a handful of them laying around, not to mention the fact that they do sell the effect part kits, so there's plenty of options to get him some thrust effects if you need them. There isn't a lot of paint on this guy, but that's not necessarily a negative. It's very much a hallmark of this line in many ways because of the fact that, taking into consideration that this guy is a mech, doesn't necessarily need a lot of paint. It's got just the actual colors of the plates themselves, rather. So it can all be molded and put together, and it works very nicely. What paint there is pretty cleanly applied. It's just minimal, but it's never been a thing that's been a problem for me because of what these things are. It's not a human with a bunch of different tones. It's just plates of armor. So I'm happy with that. The purples, the navy blues on him, the sort of gunmetal-y gray, and then the actual flat grays look really good. Colors are consistent throughout. There's no issues with, like the colors on the top not matching the colors on the bottom because it's from a different mold or anything like that. You do have hits of red here and there on these like hard points that he's got. And then, of course, on the thrusters on the back, and then on the vents here as well. So there is a little bit of color change up when it comes to just sort of bringing him out and making him into something a little bit more exciting. So you've got a shock of red here and there just to sort of liven things up. But I think he looks fantastic. I really have no complaints with the aesthetics on this guy, with the design and the way it turns out. I mean, the head sculpt is probably, outside of the feet, one of the things you're going to be drawn to first because it's such a crazy design. I really like, the vents and tubing going from the mouth, the quote-unquote mouth, to the back of the helmet, and then that sort of, four-pronged visor that it's got there looks really good against the black of the helmet, not to mention the fact that it's kind of a metallic-y green mono eye on this guy. It's kind of hard to pick up the color. It's got a hint of silver to it. You can see like hints of gold in certain instances, but it's got a little bit of a green tinge to it as well, and it sort of stands out. So you've got a lot of like the very Zeonic elements when it comes to this particular suit, but I think it looks really nice, and these colors pop. They work well with each other, and again, the sculpt is tremendous. Sizing looks really good. He's got all the big parts where he needs them. That sounded weird. And then, of course, overall, just really nice interpretation of this particular suit into the Robot Spirits line. Now, as far as accessories goes, in typical Robot Spirits fashion, this thing comes with quite a bit. I mean, look at it. It's kitted out at this point. It's pretty busy back here. We'll talk about this stuff in a second. Let's talk about the hands first. So it does come with the little tree that you can put the hands on. So you get 10 extra hands. You've got gripping hands, standard gripping hands on it in the box. You get a set of relaxed trigger finger hands, so you're not actively gripping the trigger. You've got a set of trigger finger hands where the trigger is being pressed. You've got another set of trigger finger hands, and these are actually oriented differently. The hands, they are angled so that they'll go on and they'll be able to be bent in a certain fashion to better hold certain guns. So they kind of add just another, like, it's kind of quality of life improvement, really. You get a set of style pose hands, and then you get a set of relaxed open hands. So you get plenty of variety here. As far as the rest of the stuff, so he comes with a whole bunch of stuff, and there's all the included parts needed to attach it, because none of this stuff was on it previously, right? So to start with, you get 2 of these guys, what are they? I always forget what these are called. The Sturmfaust, that's what they're called. The Sturmfaust little rockets, and you get 2 of these little clips, so you can put them on the skirt piece here, and then they just clip on. None of this stuff has paint on it. I'll point that out right now. None of it is painted. It's one of the areas that I kind of wish they would improve upon, because some of this stuff would look a lot cooler if it wasn't just flat gray. It's not necessarily not accurate, but it would look a little nicer. We get the heat saber. So this guy goes into a ring that will peg onto the thrusters back here. And you've got, it's just a, this is the regular version. And you've got like the sort of pointy end over here. It is pretty pointy too, so maybe watch out. You can take that apart and you get the actual ignited version as this tries to escape me. So you get the ignited version, and it's an orange blade. It's really big. I mean, it's almost as tall as the figure itself, just about a little bit shy. So you've got that. So you've got 2 options when it comes to this. You can pop that back in there. We get the giant bazooka here. We've seen this before with other suits. You can put rockets inside of it if you have them from other figures or from the effect part. You've got thruster ports on the back here, and then the actual trigger and the grip will move on this as well. So that looks really good. We've got the machine gun here, and it is kind of difficult to get in and out. Well, we'll just pop that out. So this is the little clip for that. It fits on the giant butt flap back there. And then you've got the machine gun. The sculpt on this thing is tremendous. I really like it. Again, it doesn't really have any paint on it, but it looks really good. And it is also effect part compatible. So you've got that. You've got the 2 Sturms. We've got the heat saber. We've got the rocket launcher. And then you've got the extra propellant tank. So this is like the space equipment for when it's in space, to allow it to be out there longer. So it's 2 of these, and these guys are actually articulated, so they will angle in and out. They'll move around a little ball joint there, and then they peg into these 2 holes that are on the underside of the back of the figure. So you don't need them, you don't have to use them, you don't have to use any of this. You don't have to put any of it on if you don't want to. It does make the figure look incredibly busy, especially if you've got all of it going on at the same time. But it also looks pretty robust with it too. So you've got a lot of options when it comes to how you want to kit it out for whatever your display needs are. And it is effect part compatible pretty much throughout when it comes to all of this stuff as well, if you've got some of that stuff laying around. So yeah, pretty much amazing figure all around. Like, there's a lot to really like about this one, from its slightly limited design lending itself to being a very well articulated figure. Some of that crazy articulation on its own is just fun to play around with. The extra jointed arms, the crazy hips, the crazy ankles, all of that stuff. It does have some limitations at the torso and at the knees, but overall, it's a very easy figure to pose, and they've done a lot to make it that way. It looks fantastic. It has a really solid array of accessories. I would have loved to have had some effect parts for the guns and for the rocket launcher, but if you have other figures, you probably have some of that stuff lying around. Maybe not that big a deal, but all around, really, really solid entry in the Robot Spirits line. So that's going to do it for this look at the Bandai Tamashii Nation's Robot Spirits ZWEI. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.